The field was wide and yellowed, stretching until it met the hills that had forgotten what green looked like. The air was still, not from calm but from exhaustion, the kind of stillness that came after too many years of wind. At the center of the field stood the windmill. Its blades hung motionless, black against the pale sky. Rust streaked the metal edges, and the wooden tower leaned slightly, as if the ground beneath it had shifted long ago and no one bothered to set it right again. The deer came at dawn. She moved slowly through the grass, her legs brushing against dry stems that bent but didn't break. Each step made a whispering sound that didn't travel far. Her coat caught the weak light, pale brown and dusted gray along the flanks, the color of forgotten leaves. When she reached the base of the windmill, she stopped. The shadow it cast was long and thin, stretching toward her across the brittle earth. She sniffed at it as if scent could explain its stillness. There was no smell of oil or wood smoke, no trace of the people who once kept it turning. Only metal and time. She looked up. The blades hung there, unmoving, cutting four dark lines into the sky. Something about their stillness felt wrong. The deer stepped closer, her hooves crunching faintly against the ground. Around the base of the windmill lay small fragments, old bolts, shards of glass, bits of wire tangled with straw. She lowered her head and nudged one gently. It rolled, ringing faintly against the stone. The sound was small but clear, echoing once, then swallowed by the air. She froze, ears twitching. Nothing, no echo, no answer. The field remained still. Then, faintly, a low hum. Not from the windmill, from the ground. She lifted her head, alert. The sound was deep and slow, more vibration than tone, pulsing through the earth beneath her hooves. It came once, then again, rhythmic and patient, like the heartbeat of something enormous, buried far below. She stepped back, uneasy. The hum faded for a moment, then returned, softer now, like a memory returning through the soil. The deer turned toward the horizon. The hills were quiet, the grass there untouched by motion. Nothing moved, no birds, no breeze. The hum continued, steady now, too faint to frighten but too present to ignore. She circled the windmill slowly, stopping at the far side where the shadow didn't reach. The earth here was darker, softer. Something had been buried, or perhaps something had risen and sunk again. The hum deepened. The blades above her creaked once, slow, pained, as if remembering what they were for. They moved a fraction, no more than the thickness of a breath, then stopped. The deer flinched, taking 2 steps back. Her heart beat fast, though the air was still cold. She looked up again, expecting movement. There was none. The hum faded. The silence that followed wasn't emptiness. It was listening. The deer stood there for a long time, her breath visible in the light. When she turned away, the shadow of the windmill reached after her, thin and broken, but it didn't move again. She walked back into the tall grass, her steps leaving faint trails that closed behind her, disappearing as if she'd never been there. The hum didn't return. The air went still, but deep beneath the windmill, in the dark soil that had forgotten rain, something shifted once. A faint echo of motion, a ghost of turning, and the ground held its breath, as though it remembered the shape of wind. By the second day, the air had grown colder, though the sky still refused to change. It was the kind of cold that didn't sting, only lingered, soft and heavy, like a blanket of breath held too long. The field looked the same, endless and dull. But the silence was different now. It wasn't empty anymore, it was waiting. The deer came again, following the same narrow path between the tall, colorless grass. Her hooves pressed the earth with quiet patience, each step slow and deliberate, her ears flicking toward every small sound the stillness invented. When she reached the windmill, it was exactly as before. The blades hung motionless, their rusted edges catching the light. The wood creaked faintly under its own weight, though no breeze touched it. The deer stopped at the base and looked up. Her breath drifted upward, curling into the frozen air before fading. The hum began again. Faint. Beneath her. She turned her head, ears twitching. The sound wasn't coming from the ground this time. It was inside the windmill itself. Low. Rhythmic. like the slow turning of a gear that had forgotten how to move. The deer stepped closer. Her reflection shimmered faintly in a pool of water near the base, melted frost, shallow and still. The surface rippled once as the hum deepened. She looked down. For a moment, the reflection changed. The blades above her were moving, slow, deliberate circles cutting through the gray sky. But when she looked up again, they were still. The hum grew stronger, vibrating through the earth, through the tower, through her legs. It wasn't loud, but it filled everything. She stepped back, hooves pressing into soft soil. The sound stopped. Silence fell like dust. The deer's breath came quick and thin. She turned toward the horizon, the edges of her vision trembling slightly with the afterimage of movement that hadn't happened. Then, a sound from within the tower. A metallic knock. Once, then again. She froze. It wasn't the sound of machinery. It was hollow, like something inside had fallen or been dropped. Something small striking against iron. The deer moved slowly around the base, keeping her distance. The boards of the windmill were dark with age, streaked with patches of black where rain had once touched them. She found a gap between two planks and lowered her head to peer inside. Darkness. And something else. A faint shimmer, like dust caught in moonlight, though there was no light here to make it. It pulsed in rhythm with the hum that had faded seconds before. She drew back, breath visible in the cold air. The windmill groaned softly, a slow, aching sound, like wood remembering weight. The deer looked up again. The blades didn't move, but they no longer looked dead. They looked suspended, like something was holding them in place. She took one step back, then another. The air thickened again. The hum returned, faint and far away this time, like it had retreated into the hills. Then, suddenly, a gust of wind. It came from nowhere. One short, heavy breath of air that bent the tall grass around her and sent ripples across the pool at her feet. She lifted her head, startled. The windmill didn't move. Not an inch. The wind passed through the field, through her fur, then vanished as quickly as it came. Silence again. The deer stood there for a long time, ears forward, waiting for the next breath of motion. It never came. She turned and began to walk away, her reflection breaking once more in the pool of water. Behind her, from within the windmill, the faint metallic knock sounded again. 1, 2. Then, nothing. The deer stopped halfway through the field and looked back. The blades caught the gray light, the edges glinting faintly as if they'd moved when she wasn't looking. But they hadn't. The world held still again. And from deep beneath the soil, too faint for her to hear, the hum began once more. Slower now, quieter, like the heart of the wind remembering its own silence. By the third day, the field looked as though it had never changed, but something beneath it had. The air carried a new heaviness, not wind, not storm, but pressure, like sound trying to be born. The silence wasn't just around things now, it was inside them. The deer came again, though she hesitated longer this time, before stepping into the open. The tall grass leaned slightly inward as she passed, the blades brushing against her sides, whispering in a way that didn't quite sound like wind. When she reached the windmill, the morning light was thin and colorless. The wooden frame cast a shadow that didn't match its shape, bending at angles that shouldn't exist. The hum was already there, waiting. She stopped a few paces away. It was deeper than before, slower, coming not from the ground but from within the air itself. The kind of sound that could be felt more than heard, moving through ribs and bone, soft and endless. The deer lowered her head. Her ears flicked back, then forward again. The hum rose once, steady and certain, and the pool at the base of the windmill began to tremble. Small circles rippled outward from the center, though no drop had fallen to disturb it. The deer stepped closer, cautiously. Her reflection shimmered, breaking into fragments. The hum changed. Now it was uneven, a rhythm forming beneath it, like footsteps echoing across something hollow. The deer lifted her head. From within the windmill came another sound, A creak, long and low, followed by the soft, rhythmic grind of metal shifting against wood. The blades moved. Not much, a breath's worth of motion, then stopped. But that single movement changed everything. The hum deepened, rolling through the field. The grass bowed gently, the way it would if wind had touched it. The pool at the base shimmered brighter, its surface glowing faintly in the gray light. The deer didn't move. Her reflection was gone now, replaced by something else. The image in the water showed the windmill turning slowly, its blades smooth, clean, new, and beside it stood not her, but a second deer, smaller, lighter, watching from within the reflection. The hum held steady. The deer blinked, stepped back. The image remained. The reflection deer did not move. Then, the hum stopped. The glow in the water faded. The surface went still. The deer's reflection returned, fractured for a moment before settling. She turned sharply toward the horizon, her breath fast. The air behind her seemed to ripple, not with sound, but with the memory of motion. Then, faintly, another creak. The blades above her shifted again, slower this time, heavy with rust and time. The sound of it was long and tired, the noise of wood remembering how to move. Then they stopped, locked again in place. The deer looked up at them, head tilted. The silence that followed was immense, thick, unmoving, as though the world itself had braced against something that never came. She took a step backward. Her hoof brushed against something hard in the grass, a small piece of metal, half buried in the soil. She bent her neck, sniffed. It was part of the windmill, a fragment of gear, blackened and cracked. It was warm. The hum pulsed once. She froze, ears flicked forward. The warmth faded. From inside the tower came a faint, irregular tapping, slow, deliberate. 1, pause, 2, pause, 3, then silence. The deer backed away. The air had gone colder now. The pressure was gone, replaced by emptiness, so complete it seemed to pull at her skin. She turned toward the field. The grass bent away from her this time, opening a path without sound. She walked until the windmill was just a dark shape against the horizon. Then she stopped, looked back once. The blades hadn't moved again. But at the base, the pool was gone. The earth there had split open, a dark, narrow line cutting across the dirt, and from within it came a faint, rhythmic sound, a slow turning, a hidden breath. The deer stood still, listening. The hum rose one last time, low, tired, ancient, and then sank into the ground, fading into the roots of the field itself. She lowered her head and walked on. Behind her, the blades remained frozen, but their shadows stretched longer than before, reaching farther across the grass, as if trying once more to remember what movement felt like. The fourth day began darker than the rest. The horizon didn't glow anymore. It bled light slowly, a dull smear of gray across the low hills. The field was heavy with dew, but the air itself felt dry, thick, unmoving, too dense for sound. The deer came later than usual. She had waited near the tree line for a long time, watching the windmill from a distance, unsure if it was still the same. From far away it looked smaller, almost fragile against the emptiness of the sky. But something about it felt larger now, not in size, but in presence, as though it was quietly filling every part of the air. She moved carefully through the grass. Her steps made no sound. The stalks brushed her sides and didn't move afterward, staying bent as if remembering her touch. When she reached the clearing, the hum was already there. Soft, low, familiar. But this time it was not steady. It came in waves, pulsing through the ground in long intervals, each one followed by a silence that felt longer than the last. She stopped near the base of the windmill. The air around it was different now, warmer, almost damp, carrying a faint metallic smell. The wooden tower no longer leaned. It seemed to have straightened itself overnight. The deer raised her head. The blades hung in perfect stillness, but they seemed to tremble faintly at the edges, as if the light itself couldn't decide how to hold them. She stepped closer, hooves sinking into the soft earth. The pool at the base was gone now, replaced by a hollow patch of dirt that had darkened into the color of ash. From its center rose the faintest thread of mist. Not rising, not drifting, just existing, held in place by nothing. The hum deepened. It was louder now, though not in volume, in feeling. The kind of sound that moved through the ribs and stayed there. The deer froze. The ground beneath her hooves vibrated once. The windmill groaned. The sound of wood bending echoed faintly, followed by a single long creak from above. She looked up. The blades shifted. Only slightly. A slow, shivering movement, like something waking up after a long sleep. Dust fell in thin sheets from their edges. The deer stepped back. The hum changed tone. It wasn't just one sound anymore. There were layers now, faint patterns hidden inside it, like words without language or breathing without a body. The tower's frame shook once, then stopped. The deer stared up, wide-eyed. Her breath came fast, the vapor curling and twisting as though caught by a breeze that didn't exist. Then, the hum stopped. The silence that followed was absolute. No sound from the windmill, no echo from the field. Even her own heartbeat felt muted, too soft to belong to her. She took a step backward, then another. From deep inside the tower came a noise, quiet, metallic, steady. Turning. Once, twice, then stopping mid-motion, like something had tried to start and changed its mind. The deer's ears twitched toward it, but the sound didn't come again. The light around the windmill dimmed further, though the sky hadn't changed. She backed away another step, but her hind hoof struck something hard. She turned her head. A gear, small, rusted, half buried in the dirt. The same kind she'd found before, but cleaner, its edges sharper. It vibrated faintly. She watched it as it trembled, then fell still again. The hum returned one last time, distant now, almost lost in the soil. The deer turned toward the horizon, body tense, ready to run. But she didn't. Instead, she looked up once more. The blades had stopped completely again, yet she could see them moving, not in the air, not in her eyes, but in her mind. The way they might have turned once, cutting through sky and sound and wind. For a brief second, it felt as if the whole world turned with them. Then it was gone. The hum faded. The light stayed gray. The deer lowered her head. The ground beneath the windmill pulsed once, a final heartbeat, and fell silent. She waited a moment longer, listening. Nothing. When she turned and walked away, the grass did not rise behind her. And when she looked back from the edge of the field, the windmill stood exactly as before, its blades still, its shadow long and uneven, stretching far across the earth. But deep in that shadow, unseen and unmoving, a single speck of dust drifted upward, hanging there, waiting for a wind that would never come.